Just to introduce myself, my name is Chris Scott. I work for Outdoor Recreation in Northern Ireland. We provide the secretariat services for ORN. So it's our team that have helped pull together the conference over the last few days. So really the first question then is what barriers do we think are facing the group? And I should say the idea of this session is ORN is minded to make a collaborative application to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, but how we might bring inclusive areas like this forward. So this is really an opportunity for us to sort of glean ideas and expertise from yourselves to bring forward. So yeah, keen to make start. What are the barriers facing this group? What are the barriers stopping, do we think, disabled people, those with a disability and those with low mobility, engaging with the outdoors, engaging with nature? Anybody want to offer a barrier that we can maybe discuss? Sarah Walker, thank you, Sarah. Go ahead there, Sarah.
Yeah, actually this came to me when I was watching Pammy's presentation, and I know she was talking about a different group of people, but she was talking about how it's our responsibility to reach out to people, and that's made me realise that part of the barrier is me, because I'm quite aware that I don't know what it's like to be disabled, and that, I was going to say, frightens me. It makes me anxious about talking to those people, because yeah, I get the sweaty palms. I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to offend them. I don't want to put my foot in it. And so I realised that I have to overcome that, find these people and talk to them. So I need to get over that barrier myself so that I can have these conversations and find out from people who have difficulties with their mobility, and then I can find out what their issues are.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for your honesty. Very, very refreshing. I think that's certainly something that has chimed with me throughout the conference as well. Anybody else want to come in on that one initially? And then is it Holly I have there?
Yeah, it's come up as Holly, but I'm not Holly. I'm Debbie North.
Oh, hi, Debbie. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm having to use Holly's account because I just couldn't. I couldn't log
you're
on.
Fine. I'll try and remember that.
I am not Holly. I am Debbie North. And I do a lot of work about accessibility in the countryside. I'm a wheelchair user myself. And what I find is probably one of the biggest obstacles for people is cost. And I always talk about the wheelchairs as being my shoes, and that, you know, you wouldn't go out in a normal pair of shoes to access the countryside. You'd put your hiking boots on, or you'd put your walking shoes on. And of course, for us, our shoes, as in our wheels, are very, very expensive. And that sort of limits a whole group of people with disabilities being able to access the countryside. And I know a lot of national parks have done things like the Miles Without Styles routes, which are absolutely excellent, but it's now looking at implementing more challenge and more risks of getting up into the hills. But with that comes the implication of the costs of these machines per individual.
Okay, no, that's really interesting. So the approach to all ability trails, for example, is welcomed. But what you're saying there is actually there is a need for further challenge, and that the chair is the item that provides you that opportunity for challenge. Is that a fair summary?
I would say absolutely. Yeah. So you know, there's a lot of people with disabilities out there that are wanting the higher level challenges, the further distance challenges. You know, for somebody who loves hiking, to say that they can only go and do a 2-mile hike when, you know, they want the inspiration and aspiration to be able to go and do a 15-mile for the day. And and that's when limitations really are apparent.
Okay, no, that's fascinating. Actually, you know, it's really framed it in a different way for me. So no, thank you very much. Let me see. Oh, plenty of hands up now. Great. So Graham Clark is the next hand I have up there. Graham, come to you. Thanks, Debbie.
Hi. What Debbie said actually is what I was going to say. To be honest,
that's okay.
So I work for the National Trust, but I'm also a director with Experience Community. But I'm also able-bodied, and I'm do some work with Experience Community around the cycling and around training, so we can get more people leading the more adventurous rides. And I think sometimes there's an assumption that people who need extra assistance, whether it's wheelchairs or hand cycles or the kit that's out there, is incredible. Some of the the videos that Debbie does are amazing, and it's very easy to assume that people can't get to places, and therefore it never cuts sort of, they're all flat, short, circular routes, and actually there is a real desire to get into the more wild spaces, and they don't have to be flat. And they, obviously physical barriers are tricky, and it was in one of the comments for one of the other things about gates and anti-motocross bike barriers and all those sorts of things. But assuming people don't or can't get to the wilder places, I think is a massive hurdle for some people to get over.
Okay, great, Graham. That echoes that really well. No, thanks. That's really useful. Okay, we've got 20 minutes or so left. So so with barriers at the moment, I have difficult terrain. I have the barriers as being us and our confidence to approach this in the right way, and I have obviously barriers around actual cost of chairs to allow people action that desire to explore further. So those are the ones I have so far. I've lots of hands up. Is there any if one of your barriers is those, put your hand back down again. But if it's an additional one, I'm going to come to you now. So I have Mike Downey is next.
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike. So yeah, that's just really interesting, those reflections already. I suppose I had some of those in mind, but the obvious one being the terrain, but the infrastructure is clearly another obvious one. So ensuring that we've got suitable standards around our gaps, gates and stiles type stuff. But actually the one I was going to just talk about was those sort of external barriers that actually can increase accessibility for a whole range of different user groups, and that's about how we kind of communicate about our sites and promote our sites. And provide the sort of information that any visitor might need. So it's just that sort of basic level of information provision through our different communication channels, so that people know, sort of where the car parking is, making sure that where your car park is actually, connected to your site, and that bit of the sort of visitor's experience is covered in the pre-site information that you provide. Yeah, and I guess sort of making sure that we engage with the kind of user groups that we want to sort of more actively provide for them to be able to kind of check our assumptions and our perceptions in the communications that we give out.
Great, Mike. Thank you very much. Great. Is it Rowena? Am I pronouncing that correctly, Rowena?
Yes, you are. Yes, yeah. It is slightly touching on points that have been made, because it's about I'm a wheelchair user myself, as well as working in the field, and what I've discovered over time is that, I mean, there are all of those obvious barriers in the terrain type, obstacles and that sort of thing. But actually a lack of confidence and poor quality information about walking opportunities holds a lot of disabled people back. I mean, when you think about the amount of, like, the range of walking ability that comes under the catch-all of disability, and then you think about the range of opportunities for countryside walking, and you put those together, there's a huge range of opportunity out there. It's just that for disabled people, we can't take risks in the same way. You have to prepare you can't just go and take you haven't got the luxury of exploring in quite the same way. So a lot more preparation needs to go. And so I find that the provision of information, but not just any information, the quality of that information, and some types of information I feel have more potency for disabled people than others. So visual forms of information I have found very effective. It has to be quality visual information, but I think it's much more powerful in terms of motivating people. Like, you can provide dry information, which might be very good and very accurate, but it doesn't necessarily translate into action. You don't necessarily go and walk on that basis. But if you look at a photo trail or a series of pictures or a video, it gives you a real sense of confidence. Yeah, I think I could manage that, or perhaps that walk's not for me. So those kind of issues, I think.
Okay.
Sorry, very finally, I just wanted to say
You're
to
okay.
the woman who spoke first about confidence in approaching disabled people, I would say it's just much, much better to concede. I think that kind of fear holds lots of people back. It's sort of misplaced, but I understand it. It's just ask. The worst thing that people do is assume knowledge about disabled people's needs. So actually, I think you're well placed to just go and ask. Disabled people themselves know what they need, and they'll be very happy to explain to you.
Great. No, thank you very much for that. So I'm really taking there, it's high quality information that motivates, but allows you to make that informed choice as well, is really what you're summarizing that first bit. And the second bit is engage, be confident, engage, and be humble about that. So no, thank you very much. Mel Nichols next, I think.
Hi. Yeah, I agree on all those points. What Debbie was saying about equipment and cost is a huge thing, and not just for participants, but for leaders as well. I have disability. I'm an outdoor leader, cycling and lowland walking, but actually finding sort of equipment for leaders is a huge barrier, and then the logistics that kind of getting equipment, bikes, wheelchairs or whatever to places. So just sort of agreeing on that. And I think also the barriers that maybe perceived, or a bit like we were saying about assuming information about people with disabilities, it's far better to involve the people with disabilities and ask them what it is they need, what it is they want, not assume they need this barrier or they need that ramp, because that's not necessarily going to work. And I think for me personally, things that have put me off, it sometimes feels like you've got to put your shell on and fight for things a little bit, which obviously it shouldn't be like that, and hopefully everybody should be made welcome, and I understand that everything can't be inclusive for all, for everything at the same time, but trying to not kind of have those the separate something for people disabled, something for people that aren't, kind of trying to have that all-inclusive things, which is what we're talking about, and that diverse range is really important. So I think, yes, things that have been barriers to put in my way, that organisations might not let you explain how able you are or how you go about things. It's kind of, well, my risk assessment says X, therefore you can't do it, kind of thing. So that's a real kind of mental thing that puts people off, and yeah, that sort of thing I think is really important.
Okay, thank you, Mel. And I see lots of commentary in the chat around all those topics as well. So I'll be keeping the transcript of that too to reflect on in my write-up of this session. So there's lots of good information coming through there. So let me check my hands coming up again. So Sophie Gordon from Cycling UK.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I suppose a couple of quick things. One related to what Debbie and Graham were saying, really good points about kind of, wheelchairs being very expensive and people wanting a bit more of a challenge. And I've seen at 1 or 2 National Trust sites, they have these mountain trikes available for people to use, which can kind of do a wider range of terrain than the sort of tramper buggies, and they're e-assisted. Now, I had a go on one. They're really good fun, and you can kind of go on the more bumpy trails and get around. So I think things like that are brilliant. But the other thing I was going to mention in terms of barriers is, I think Anna touched on it in the chat, that we need to not focus on just visible physical disabilities, because there's the huge range of things, and kind of including chronic illness and that, people with Crohn's or chronic fatigue, where it might be more important to have benches or toilets or something like that. And obviously it's a balance between, you don't want everywhere to look like a huge development with a big car park and loads of toilets and things. But I know during lockdown, a lot of public toilets have been closed. That's been a huge problem for people just not daring to go out if the toilets aren't open, which is really sad, really.
Okay, oh, thank you, Sophie. Has anybody else so we've got about 10 or 12 minutes left. Time's going very fast. So has anybody else any other barriers? Mel, is that a hand from before, or is that the, you know, yeah, that's okay. Any other barriers you want to bring up before we move on to the next one, which is for me talking a bit more now about solutions. I fully appreciate that isn't all the barriers, but in a 20 or 5 minute session, it's a good start for us. And I say we will be providing opportunity for further discussion around this as we move forward. So, so let's look at some of the solutions. So, how do we work in partnership? How do we work in partnership to start solving these things? And probably take the next two questions together. So, how do we work in partnerships, and what stakeholders do we need to involve? So if you want to put all your hands back down again, or come in on this one, I think Mel, have you a hand up for this one, and Graham, or is that a legacy hand from the last time? I don't seem to be able to. Normally, as chair, I can put your hand back down again, but I don't seem to have that ability this time.
Down.
Yeah, that's okay. Graham, have you a new question, or is it the same one?
My hand is down.
That's okay, it's down now. Yeah, that's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to pick on you. So this next question, and so how do we work in partnership, or who do we work in partnership, and what stakeholders should we engage with? So let me just check here now. I've scared everybody now. Everybody's put their hands down.
I have to put it back up again now.
Please do.
I think, speaking as a large organisation, part of the difficulty is there are so many groups that we could or should talk to. It's actually working out the best ones, and because we're not just one nation as well, there's different ways, different organisations, different localities to speak to. Making sure we speak to the best people is sometimes really hard. It's not like there's a one-stop shop. We could pop and talk to group X and that kind of ticks off X, Y, and Z box, or we speak to this group over there. And I suppose that's a nervousness, is that we could end up speaking to the wrong group just because we don't know they're the wrong group, or not quite the right group rather than the wrong group.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anybody other comments on that? Any other hands? Is there a job of work there, Graham? Do you think then it's not as simple as providing like a database of contacts? Of course it's not, but is there a job of work to sort of work out the key umbrella groups and key groups for particular areas, or do the hard yards behind the scenes that pulls that together? Would that be something that would be of benefit, do you think? Or
I think so. I mean, one thing I picked up from yesterday is that an awful lot happens in the home nations. Obviously I'm based in England, but some of the stuff that was talked about yesterday, a lot of happening in Scotland, which I had absolutely no awareness of, and I wouldn't, even if I tried to find it, I'm still not sure I would have found it. So yes, it's an epic job, but if there was that kind of pooling of good practice and knowledge and which groups to talk to, that would be a fantastic start, definitely.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else, any comments on partnerships and stakeholders? Anybody doing it particularly well that would be a good first starting call to start with, do we think? Or any good organisations that have engaged well in the past or be keen to engage with in the future? Any commentary on that? We've all gone very quiet on me now. Hi Debbie, come on ahead. You're just on mute there, Debbie, sorry.
Hi. I don't know if people are aware of a scheme down in the southwest called Countryside Mobility, an amazing organisation that have got over like 50 locations along the southwest coastal path where people can go and for a very small fee borrow an all-terrain wheelchair and access places like the along the Jurassic coastline at Dorset. So there are places, and like Community Experience in West Yorkshire, another fabulous resource where people can experience all-terrain wheelchairs. There's the Lakeland Lake District Mobility that have got several locations in Cumbria where people can borrow the all-terrain wheelchairs. A lot of the National Trust properties have them for their estates, their grounds. So there are places, and you know, a lot of the councils have these beach wheelchairs where people can access getting onto the beach. But again, like it's been said, it's actually having all that collated information of where people can go to get these machines, so that they can access the countryside or the beach or the coast. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you.
No, thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much. So really what we're saying in terms of partnerships and stakeholders, that is, we feel that's quite a challenge then, because of the potentially fragmented nature of the approach. There are really good groups often doing things at a local level, at a regional level, and even at a national level in another nation that we don't necessarily know about. So there's definitely a job of work to collaborate those together in some way, but do it in a meaningful way. Like, you know, the best way to demonstrate good work is through case studies and showcase and so on, maybe like we have done to a degree this morning in the time allowed in the conference, you know. So is that maybe the type of approach that we're looking at for the partnerships and stakeholders? If there was any other hands up on this topic? Yes, Rowena, come on ahead, please.
In Colchester, we are just about to start a collaboration with local cycling groups, and that's not actually specifically disabled or inclusive cycling groups, just Colchester's conventional cycle group, to map barriers because of the overlap between these are mostly man-made barriers on pathways, etc. Because of the overlap between the problems experienced by cyclists and mobility scooters, larger chair users, etc. And the great advantage of that is they have a much greater lobbying power than we do as disabled people in Colchester. Well, we don't have a very strongly formed access group in Colchester, whereas the cycling lobby is very, very strong, and also they are out and about every day, travelling further afield, and much better able to be photographing barriers and describing them, etc. So I'm hoping that that's going to be a really powerful collaboration that will benefit disabled people as well. And we'll create a digital map out of that, and then we'll use that to go to the local county council and borough council, who we do already have a relationship with anyway, to talk about, you know, removal of old redundant barriers and redesign of barriers that can't be removed, but perhaps have not been designed inclusively in the first place. Okay, great, Rowena. And it's really interesting to see your approach there as well. Has been cycling focused, probably at first off, as you say, and it's, you know, it's brought different routes out of that, which has been great. And thanks to folks for sharing loads of ideas of good practice in various areas as well in the chat too. I'll collaborate all those in my feedback. A few more hands up there. We've got another couple of minutes in this one before we move on to our actions. Mel Nichols.
Yeah, just something that came to mind. I agree, there's a lot of fantastic organisations doing stuff, but it's all very regional. And if you're in the area, you know of it, or you know of it, but it's not in your area. And I just thought, from the sport background myself, the Parasport website is sort of a similar thing in that it signposts. You go to the website, you put in your area, and it's signposted to all the organisations and the sports kind of in that area. And I know that's a bit different to what we're talking about, but that's the kind of idea, isn't it, having that bank of all that information and those organisations that you can sort of pull from. So I just thought it might be a thing to mention. Okay, great. No, yeah, well, different people will approach it and engage in different ways. So no, really useful to have that indeed. Thank you very much. Mike Downey has a hand up as well. Mike.
Hi, yeah, just a quick question really. So we a few years ago did a load of sort of accessibility assessments, but kind of filmed accessibility assessments to go on to direct inquiries, which was at the time an online website that detailed access to all sorts of a whole range of settings, and I think our national nature reserves were one of the first sort of outdoor settings or countryside settings to be assessed. So I'll get to the point. Direct inquiries is offline now. The website's been taken down. So I did wonder whether there was anything else available that was a similar sort of platform, essentially, kind of a sort of one-stop shop for accessible places, and the information around the accessibility assessments that are done for those places.
Okay, yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if anybody else in the room does. Familiarity with direct
inquiries.
Direct inquiries, yeah. Sorry. No, but that's something we can look at, because if there was a resource there previously, it's maybe something worth looking at. But again, it's great to see plenty of other ones coming through there on the chat as well. So no, but we'll pick up on that one, Mike. So thanks for the question. Just check hands here again. I think that's everything from Rowena. Did you want to come back in on that one? No, okay, great. So we're into our last. We've got 5 minutes left. We're probably working towards the actions as we've been talking over the section. So what I'm going to be asked when I go back into the overall plenary session is, so we've identified barriers. In fact, we probably identified engaging with partners and stakeholders as a barrier and a challenge as well, potentially. So if there was 3 steps and actions that as a group we were going to take, what would those be? Anybody an idea of what's the first most important step? Fire a hand up or put some stuff into chat. Don't think too much about the priority order. If it's just something you think we should really do, that's absolutely fine. Let me see. Everybody's hands are down, so you're going to just fire a hand up. I'll be happy to come to you with your ideas. Something coming through on chat there. Co-design, Sophie. Yeah, that's a key term that's come up over the last number of months. Indeed, I'm involved to a degree in the steering group for the revision of the Countryside for All guide. There's a lot of conversation there around co-design. Do you think that's a key? Do we think that's a key principle in all this potentially? Sorry, I'm just trying to keep up with the chat here. Quality information, yeah. So that's building on your point earlier, Rowena. Thank you very much. Yeah, just going to capture these. Sorry, apologies. I'm trying to juggle a few things at once here. Okay. Yes, getting away from easy access. Yeah, and providing that. Delivering on that desire for challenge, really, I suppose, is what we're saying. Yeah, I think that's, and I have to say that's been a key takeaway for me in this session. I'm honest enough to say that. Okay, just seeing plenty more coming through here. I'm trying to keep up, so thank you. Yeah, engaging local audiences, Callum, indeed, thank you. Yeah, start to finish good practice case studies, so more work for us to do there, providing good examples, and maybe some guidelines as well. And the co-design could obviously maybe lend itself to some of the guidelines. So more good practice. And yes, picked up on your point there, Anne, and well liked by the delegates, and agree about not just thinking of physical barriers, but thinking of it in its widest context. So yes, thank you for that. Okay. Anybody else? Any hands up? We're coming to an end. Maybe give you a 2-minute break before we go back. Mel, is that another hand up, or is that from the previous one?
No, yeah, just wanted to say, yeah, about collaboration. So collaborate with, whether that's sort of locally or regionally, with people that understand it, that with people that experience it, that know the stuff. They're the best people that can advise and help and collaborate with.
Yeah, great. And that's been very clear actually in this session alone. Well, so yeah. Okay, any other hands up? I don't think so. Just check the chat one last time. So I have, in terms of our three steps and actions, we have, so the importance of co-design and the importance of gauging those who experience it, importance of quality information and an approach to that. And that information, as we said earlier, needs to motivate, but needs to provide an informed choice as well. And then fundamentally, actually, I'm going to put this as my first, is delivering on the desire for challenge. I think that's really key. And then we've also sort of underpinning all that is backing that up with good practice, good case studies, good practice guidance that people can easily pick up. So land managers, landowners, you know, the providers of outdoor experiences can pick up and run with. So. So yeah, so I think that's everything. Any more hands up before I draw that to you? I think if you just stay here, you'll be teleported back into the main room again once this comes to an end in a few minutes. So if you just stay in the breakout room. But yeah, listen, happy to sort of open the floor now and have some very informal chat. If anybody wants to ask a question, pick up on something that was discussed, or verbalize it across, please just jump in. Double checking the finishing time here.
Chris, this is Doug here. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Hi, Doug. How are you?
Yeah, just a message to Rowena there. I'm not sure if she got it. I'd just like to talk to her more about the provision of information, because it's a project I'm actually working on at the moment. So maybe we could talk offline about some of your thoughts on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure we have, I don't know, contact details for the conference will probably be available for participants somewhere, I guess, but I've
it might be worth Doug just pinging your email address into the chat there.
Okay, I sent her a message, but I wasn't sure if it actually went anywhere. All right, I'll do that. So yeah,
we can all see that.
Fine.
The chat pane, if you just click on it's called conversation in this one. It's just up at the top. Did you get that okay, Rowena?
I have Rowena's number or email
address
there now. Yeah, that's great.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Oh, I've been given a 5-minute extension after me hurrying to a close. Yeah. How have you found the conference in general? Those who've attended today and parts of yesterday, maybe. What do you think so far? Has it met your need? Is there other areas that we need to pick up on further? Happy to receive candid feedback. Doug, have you a hand up there? Oh, somebody's having problems with their microphone. Who's that? RM. See if I can get you turned on.
Sorry, I'm there now. Doug here again. Sorry.
Yeah, work away.
I was just saying, I guess based on the discussion here in the breakout room, it seemed to me that a conference which was very specifically focused on disability and mobility. I know this was about inclusiveness in general, but it's quite a broad topic because it varies from, you know, disadvantaged people to, you know, minority ethnic groups and everything. So it's quite broad, but a conference, or at least a discussion on accessibility, specifically would be something that I'd be delighted to see and participate in.
I think that's a fair, and I think that's how we envisage this going as well. Like we're engaging. We've been engaging with the National Lottery Heritage Fund for the last couple of months, and really this was to have a broad start, to start gleaming some ideas and channeling things in the right direction, and working out where we focus either holistically or separately as we move forward. So that's kind of the idea. So yeah, I welcome that comment, Doug. You're bang on there. You know.
Thanks for that.
Oh, 10 seconds left. We'll see you all in the plenary. Thank you very much for your really valued contribution. Thank you.